place, and I was out there living it.
You know that her mouth is saying no, but you're sure that there are parts of her saying yes, not to mention.
A Different World, we did the first show about AIDS on television, the very first.
Understanding what happened to A Different World can help us see why it ended. Was it the changing TV landscape? Did viewers lose interest? Did the cast want to move on to new projects? What happened behind the scenes that led to its end?
Between education, poverty, joblessness, pregnancy, drugs, gangs, we have a lot of issues.
Many fans have wondered why it officially came to an end after 6 successful seasons. Let's delve in to find out more.
I know my parents.
A Different World was a popular TV show that aired in 1987. It was a spin-off from The Cosby Show, and it mainly focused on life at a fictional black college called Hillman. The show was groundbreaking because it showed black students going to college, facing real-life issues, and supporting each other. This was one of the first shows to do this on television. The main character at first was Denise Huxtable, played by Lisa Bonet, who came from The Cosby Show. But soon, other characters, like Whitley Gilbert and Dwayne Wayne, became very popular. Despite being one of the biggest stars of the 1980s, Bonet stayed on the show for only 1 season. Yup, the character on which the spin-off was based split after The Freshman. She became a teen idol and seemed ready for a big film career. But when she took on a controversial role in the movie Angel Heart, it changed everything. Although the director, Alan Parker, wanted her for the role, Bonet felt she needed to ask Cosby for permission first.
Oh, yeah, I know. You gotta kill a chicken and make the soup.
Look, we don't go around murdering people, all right, Mr. Angel?
Bonet later shared her feelings with the Oklahoman, saying, "I walked in there and told him about the role. I said it had nudity and would be controversial." Cosby, while supportive, warned her that the industry could be harsh. He said, "I know that you kids can be erased just like that." This advice was meant to protect her, but it also showed how serious the business could be. Even though Cosby gave her his blessing, he chose not to watch Angel Heart. He told Ebony magazine that he felt it wasn't for him. But the challenges didn't stop there. When Bonet became pregnant with musician Lenny Kravitz, Cosby's reaction was mixed. Debbie Allen, the director at that time, tried to help Bonet use her pregnancy in a storyline. She wanted to show a young woman having a baby on TV, but Cosby disagreed, thinking it would change how audiences saw Denise. Instead of working around her pregnancy, Bonet was removed from the show altogether.
I explained to him how I wanted to use it on the show, because that would be a great thing to see a girl who's upper class kid having a baby, not married because she didn't want to be married, and the girls could root for her.
Bonet's exit from The Cosby Show and the way it happened left many people disappointed, including her co-stars. They felt the show missed a chance to tell a relatable and inspiring story about a young woman balancing school and motherhood.
Say hello to a new show.
Oh, I'm Denise Huxtable.
I'm Jaleesa. I'm from Minnesota.
I'm a mom.
A Different World did well in the ratings, coming in second to only its parent, Sean Leadon, during its first year. But the tone and overall energy of the show was criticized widely for being boring and bland. Nothing really happened in the first season. The second eldest Cosby kid goes to college. She makes a couple of friends, has trouble with money and grades. Basically, it was your average first-year college experience starring Lisa Bonet. Even before the show premiered, it ran into some problems. The writing staff was fired and producer Ann Beats was brought in to replace the first episodes with new material. Luckily, things got better. NBC was not satisfied with the lukewarm ovation that the first season received from audiences and critics. Thus, major changes were in order for season 2. Enter Debbie Allen, the mastermind behind Fame.
Well, the first thing I did was really try to communicate to the writers that we needed to connect with the actors and vice versa, because that was the missing link.
When Allen arrived, she knew the show could be more meaningful and impactful. So she brought her ideas, her experience, and a new level of honesty to the show. Cast members like Kadeem Hardison and Jasmine Guy credit her for adding depth to their characters and making the show something special. Debbie Allen had a plan from the start. Kadeem Hardison, who played Dwayne Wayne, shared how Allen pushed the actors to think deeply about their characters. She even gave them homework. Allen asked each actor to go home and write about where they saw their characters going, what kind of person they thought their character should be, and what they wanted their character to do. It was no longer just about delivering lines. Allen wanted them to bring their characters to life with their own ideas. Hardison remembers how this made them all feel more connected to the roles they played. They didn't just act like students, they felt like real students with real problems and dreams. Jasmine Guy, who played Whitley Gilbert, said Debbie Allen didn't just change their characters on the surface, she made them deeper and more realistic. Allen even changed the actors' appearances to make them look like real students, not like glamorous TV stars. She snatched all the weaves out of hair, Guy said, explaining how Allen wanted the characters to look natural and relatable. Allen brought in her own experiences, having studied at Howard University, which made her aware of the issues college students face, especially at historically Black colleges.
I looked at every episode and I also saw a lot of foolishness. You know, I'm all for laughter and buffoonery is okay, but to an end. What is it about? You know, we don't have time to do an episode at a Black university where their assignment is to take care of an egg. No, we're dealing with serious issues out here.
Allen also made sure the show covered serious topics that mattered to the Black community and young people. Under her guidance, A Different World started addressing big issues like DATE-R, apartheid in South Africa, and the HIV crisis. Hardison mentioned that sometimes the network didn't like these topics. He said, "We were doing a lot of controversial stuff. It was some stuff that maybe the network wasn't as thrilled about." Allen often had to fight with the network to keep these stories in the show, but she didn't back down. She wanted the show to reflect real-life challenges and not just be about romance and comedy. Guy added that it was always a struggle with the network. They weren't interested in serious issues. They just wanted the show to be funny and light. The network executives, who were mostly white men, didn't understand why those topics were important to discuss on the show. Guy said, "Them white boys did not care about DATE-R, apartheid, riot, HIV. They were like, just put Whitley and Dwayne and be funny." But Allen believed the show had the power to open people's eyes, so she kept pushing for stories that would make a difference.
Between education, poverty, joblessness, pregnancy, drugs, gangs, we have a lot of issues.
However, as the series moved into its later seasons, something started to change. The ratings began to drop, and longtime fans noticed a shift in the show that left them feeling disappointed. By season 6, many viewers were not tuning in like they used to. It was sad to see something that once felt so vibrant and exciting lose its spark. Fans were also upset about how the characters changed. Take Whitley Gilbert, played by Jasmine Guy. She was a genius character with a unique personality that many loved. But by season 6, fans felt like Whitley had changed too much. Many loved Freddie Brooks, played by Cree Summer, especially in season 5.
I served as the muse for his poems, and it is so incredible how much he's inspired me.
But in season 6, it felt like she was a completely different person. This change was hard for fans to accept, especially when they had gotten so comfortable with the characters' personalities. Another big issue was the focus on new freshman characters. Many fans thought if the show wanted to shift its focus, it would have been better to create a separate show for them. The new characters didn't fit well with the original cast, which had a close-knit family vibe that everyone loved. The original theme song was a classic, but the new one just didn't feel right. Fans thought the show was trying too hard to be trendy, losing the unique flavor that first drew them in. The storylines also took a turn that many fans didn't appreciate. The writers could have kept the characters single longer, exploring their lives after college, or focusing on grad school. Instead, the show became too centered on couples, which some viewers didn't enjoy. Fans were also frustrated with how Yalisa's character was treated.
This is the night that I make dinner for Tony, and you promised you were gonna stay away, remember?
She started as a strong, independent woman, but ended up portrayed as a whiny character in her final season. This change felt out of place and random, especially since her new partner, Colonel. Taylor seemed mismatched with her, Some fans thought Jaleesa should have left the show altogether. As the show moved on, it struggled to create compelling storylines. It seemed like the writers were forced to come up with contrived ways to keep the characters connected to Hillman College. They also introduced too many new characters, which confused viewers. The addition of characters like Bumper Robinson, Jada Pinkett, and others clashed with the original cast. The show also faced problems with its time slots. NBC changed the show's schedule several times, which made it hard for fans to keep watching. By the final season, the show was moved to a less popular time, hurting its chances to stay on the air. Jasmine Guy, who played Whitley Gilbert, shared that the sudden change in the schedule was surprising and, in her opinion, racially motivated. She felt that the network did not treat the show fairly, especially since it was one of the few black shows on NBC. During its 6th season, the show's ranking dropped to 71st place. In January 1993, NBC put the show on hold because the ratings were so low. Later, they announced that the show was canceled. Thankfully, the final season did not leave any major cliffhangers, so fans could feel some closure. The show still plays on different channels today and can be streamed online, so new viewers can still enjoy it. Jasmine Guy spoke about how changing the time slot affected the show. For many years, A Different World was often in the top 3 shows on TV. Guy explained that it didn't make sense to change its time. She said, "Why would you change our time slot? And why would you put us up against Martin?" I definitely took that personally. Jasmine felt that both shows shared the same audience, and by airing them at the same time, the network forced fans to choose one over the other. She also pointed out that NBC didn't put other shows on at the same time to compete. Jasmine believed that the decision to put the 2 black shows against each other was unfair and showed a lack of respect. "They don't do that for their own shows," she said. In addition to fighting to keep their viewership, Kadeem Hardison says he learned that they weren't paid adequately. "I went and did White Men Can't Jump and met Woody Harrelson, and he was doing the show Cheers. He kind of let me in on what he was making, and I was like, 'What?' he explained. From there, the cast individually demanded better pay. They eventually were given raises. There were also rumors that NBC was ready to cancel the show after they aired an episode about the Los Angeles riots in 1992. The network seemed uncomfortable with the show addressing real-life issues. Overall, A Different World was a trailblazer, but its struggles with scheduling and respect from the network ultimately led to its end.
Who can forget that soulful theme song from A Different World? The Cosby Show spinoff is just the latest series to join Hulu Plus and Netflix.
A Different World. We did the first show about AIDS on television. The very first.
Many viewers, especially young black people and women, connected deeply with these stories. For some people, though, the topics were too intense, and they felt these issues didn't belong in a sitcom. One famous example was an episode that focused on AIDS, a topic surrounded by a lot of fear and misinformation at the time. NBC initially didn't want to air this episode, but Cosby stepped in and made sure it happened. The episode aired in 1991 during the 4th season, and it was the only episode labeled TVMA, meaning it was for mature audiences.
And you would have thought we put Jesus Christ back on the cross. The way, advertisers pulled out.
The episode about AIDS starred Tisha Campbell as Josie Webb, a college student at Hillman College who was HIV positive. In the episode, Josie reveals her HIV status in a public speaking class when asked to write her own obituary. The response from her classmates is mixed. Some don't want her to serve them food, while others cover their faces with handkerchiefs, afraid of catching the virus. This reaction showed the real stigma surrounding AIDS at that time. The episode did 2 important things. First, it educated viewers on how HIV is transmitted, clearing up common myths. Many people didn't know that HIV couldn't be spread through simple contact like hugging or even kissing. Second, it showed kindness and acceptance through the character Mr. Gaines, Josie's boss at the campus dining spot. When Josie feared that Mr. Gaines would fire her if he knew about her diagnosis, he responded with care and compassion, reminding viewers of the importance of treating people with respect and kindness. The story also pushed the audience to think about safe practices when it came to sex, and to understand that anyone could be affected by HIV, not just specific groups.
You know that her mouth is saying no, but you're sure that there are parts of her saying yes, not to mention.
Another controversial subject of the show that sparked conversations about consent, leading to people criticizing the show for being too intense and topical for a sitcom, was the issue of Date R in the episode No Means No. The episode follows naive environmentalist and first-year student Winifred Brooks, who has a huge crush on a charming and seemingly friendly star baseball player, Garth Parks. Soon learns that Garth isn't the man everyone thinks he is, and that Garth has been surely assaulting women at Hillman. Garth attempts to assault Freddie while on a date after the school dance. ADW addressed several issues here. First, it dismantled the false belief that women really want sex, but because society tells them they're not supposed to ask for it, it is a man's job to let them off the hook so that it doesn't look like their idea, so says Garth. Second, it illuminated the fact that survivors of R and S-will assault do not always feel that they can report their assault, and sometimes believe that if they consented to other things, including the date itself, then the R was also their fault. Third, it showed that it is critical for men to have conversations with one another about S, masculinity, and SUL violence. This is demonstrated through a powerful conversation between Dwayne and Walter Oakes, Sinbad, the male dorm director at Hillman, who is known for his jokes and making light of issues, but who deals very sternly with this issue when Dwayne approaches him.
What part do you listen to?
Her mouth. And then you go outside, take a swim in an unheated pool.
Then there was another storyline that was seen as bold but polarizing, especially given the strong political and racial tensions surrounding the late 1980s. This episode focused on apartheid in South Africa, a time when racial segregation and oppression were still enforced there. The storyline followed students at Hillman College, a fictional historically black college, who found out that one of their biggest donors, Orange Glow, invested in South Africa, causing debate and tension on campus.
We're talking about life, real life, in the streets, and I was out there living it.
The characters faced a tough question. Should they continue accepting money from a company supporting apartheid? Whitley Gilbert, a character known for her privileged background, found herself clashing with her boyfriend Julian, who was deeply involved in anti-apartheid protests. Julian even suggested students give back their scholarships from Orange Glow. Whitley's roommate Kim, who needed the scholarship, had a difficult choice. By the end of the episode, Kim decided to turn down the money to make a statement against apartheid. This episode was groundbreaking for several reasons. It showed college students grappling with real-world political issues and reminded viewers that individual choices can contribute to larger social justice causes. The show's creator, Debbie Allen, played a big role in bringing these tough themes to life. She pushed for the storyline even though the network sometimes resisted. Some HBCU students and alumni argued that A Different World, while groundbreaking, still presented an idealized version of campus life that did not fully capture the real-life struggles and structural challenges faced by HBCUs. On the show, HBCU life looked exciting and hopeful. The show tackled important issues like students struggling to pay for school, but it also kept the focus on friendships, relationships, and personal growth. This made for good TV and offered a positive view of HBCUs, but it left out some key problems that affect many of these schools. For instance, the show didn't dive deeply into the financial struggles that are common at HBCUs. In reality, many HBCUs face serious funding challenges. These schools often have fewer resources than larger, more established universities. They may struggle to provide up-to-date facilities or financial aid, which can make it hard for students to succeed. Many deal with issues like student loan debt, high dropout rates, and a lack of funding for their schools. Some students start college but have to leave before they finish because they can't afford it. Others graduate with high debt, which can make it hard to start their careers. These challenges are part of the HBCU experience, but they don't often show up in pop culture. While A Different World did show some students worrying about money, it didn't show the full picture of how these financial issues affect HBCU students' lives and education.
The fall from grace of a living American legend 50 years in the making. Bill Cosby's alleged questionable behavior had gone largely unnoticed for decades.
In recent years, many people have changed how they feel about A Different World because of its connection to Bill Cosby. Cosby played a major role in creating the show, which was a spin-off of The Cosby Show, as earlier mentioned. But now, after many women came forward with serious accusations of sexual assault against him, some viewers feel differently about anything linked to his name. For many people, The Cosby Show has become impossible to watch. When the accusations first became widely known, some TV networks stopped airing it. Others removed the show, but later brought it back before Cosby's verdict was decided. Despite Cosby's connection, A Different World seems to have escaped some of the negative feelings surrounding The Cosby Show. Some fans say they find A Different World easier to enjoy than The Cosby Show. For them, the show's focus on serious topics makes it valuable, even with Cosby's involvement. When the show discusses topics like sexual assault, viewers may feel uncomfortable knowing about Cosby's real-life accusations. Even so, many people continue to appreciate A Different World for the lessons it teaches, choosing to focus on the positive impact it had rather than its creators' controversies. Another controversy it occasionally stirred was the way the show represented Greek culture. Greek life is a big part of many HBCUs. Fraternities and sororities are not just clubs, they are like family. Members of these organizations often create deep bonds and support one another through college and beyond. So when A Different World featured Greek life, it grabbed the attention of viewers familiar with these organizations. However, some members of Black Greek letter organizations felt that the way A Different World showed Greek life was sometimes unrealistic. To them, it seemed like the show focused too much on certain dramatic moments, which didn't capture the full picture. Some even thought that the show made things seem more wild or sensationalized than they actually are in real life. They worried that this could lead people to believe that Black Greek life was all about partying or drama, which missed the deeper, more meaningful parts.
People still depend on us to uphold freedom.
How many countries are we supposed to take care of?
Another topic that brought up a lot of emotions was the military. In the episode War of the Words, Colonel Taylor, a character on the show, talks about his experiences as a veteran of the Vietnam War. This episode aired during a time when the Gulf War was a big issue in America, and many people had strong opinions about it. In the episode, Colonel Taylor shares some of the struggles he went through in the military and how they shaped his views on the U.S. government and patriotism. This episode led to a lot of discussions among viewers. Some people appreciated that A Different World wasn't afraid to talk about difficult subjects like war. They felt that it was good for the show to highlight the experiences of Black veterans who are often left out of conversations about the military. However, others thought the episode was too critical of the U.S. military. For viewers who had family members in the military or felt strongly about supporting the troops, the episode seemed disrespectful or unpatriotic. They didn't like the idea of a popular show questioning the role of the U.S. in wars, especially during a time when the Gulf War was ongoing. By the early 1990s, the TV landscape was changing. NBC wanted to attract younger audiences and began prioritizing newer shows like Friends and Seinfeld. Sadly, this shift led to the phasing out of A Different World. It was hard for fans to watch a show they loved go through so many changes and ultimately decline. The magic that made A Different World special seemed lost, leaving fans to reminisce about the good old days.